During my research, I found out that Moseley Rugby Club actually entered a team on behalf of Great Britain in the 1900 Olympics in Paris, which is phenomenal. You know, I had no idea about this. And they actually finished third, although there were only 3 teams taking part.
Right, okay. So what else did you find out then?
I found out, particularly in regards to Webb Ellis and rugby school, that actually the word try, it wasn't about crossing over the line, you know, as you traditionally would do now. It was actually having a try at kicking a goal, because the goal was full of boys, because the boys in the games, there'd be hundreds of these boys taking part in the games in their breeches and their shirts and everything. So it's fascinating.
And is it absolutely true or apocryphal that William Webb Ellis was playing football, he picked the ball up one day and ran with it, and so came the game of rugby?
Absolutely spot on, Bob.
Really?
That's the legend. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So how did it get from that to scrums and lineouts and all the rest of it? Some of it I can work out, picking up the ball and running, passing it to someone else. But where did scrums and lineouts come from?
To be honest, I don't actually personally know that. That's not something that we touched on in the film. But I guess the game developed over time, and new codes and new rules came in over time.
So presumably there are historians who've been looking at this stuff for ages.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But for us, it was more about looking at the Midlands region and what we've contributed. So obviously, rugby school, Moseley Rugby. So Moseley Rugby Club originated in 1873. They're now still going. They've just recently had a name change. They're now Birmingham Moseley. We also looked at Aston Villa, because Aston Villa actually has a rich rugby heritage. I don't know if you're aware, but actually...
Yes, I did know.
Yeah, so there were games that used to be played at Villa Park. And Aston Villa's, the first ever match that was played in Aston, the first half was played under rugby rules. And then at half-time they said, hang on, this is too rough for us. They dusted themselves down. In the second half they played football rules.
Played a game of football. Well, that's something else I didn't know, I confess. Okay, we got a clip from this film. We'll have a look at it now. And just see some of the things that Sam found out about when he was making the film, tying in, as he said, the origins at rugby school and Moseley and their history.
It started here in 1823 on the close in Rugby, and the balls that were manufactured here have gone round the world. This West Midlands town will forever be remembered for its link with the game.
Being head grounds at rugby school is an absolute privilege. It's a joy. Every day is another challenge. So obviously it's the home of the game. So the close is the hallowed turf. At all times the close has to be looking immaculate for any visitors that come from Argentina, New Zealand, wherever it may be.
Moseley's golden age was usually reckoned to have begun in 1965, and in the following 2 decades the club produced a number of England internationals, including Colin McFadden, who was also a British Lion, Jan Webster, who played in the first England side to win in South Africa, and also the first England side to win in New Zealand.
You could argue that we went in trepidation of what might happen out there. But as fairy tales go, you go on a tour, you're with a good set of lads, you blend, you have fun, you train hard, you play hard, and I won't say you party hard, but in those days you were allowed a little bit more freedom than you are now. And it all gelled. And we didn't lose a game, we only drew one, and the last game was the one-off test. And surprise, surprise, we beat South Africa.
Sam Doble, originally from Wolverhampton, played as a fullback for Moseley and was a world record point scorer who in one season scored 581 points.
In the rarefied atmosphere of Johannesburg, he was booting the ball seriously 60, 70, 80 yards. And it was just he'd got size, whatever feet, and when he got it right, it did go. He was probably the main reason why we won that game.
The film was premiered, wasn't it, around the time of the Rugby World Cup here. What was the reaction to it?
The reaction was fantastic. I was overwhelmed, to be honest. It was a real passion project for me, and the first kind of documentary that I made, you know, I directed, that I wanted to make, if you will. And yeah, the reaction was superb. The film was screened on a 100 square foot big screen at the Fan Zone in Birmingham City Centre. And it was great because South Africa were playing Japan, and the game got shown, and a lot of South African fans were watching it, and they loved it. They had no idea about Moseley and the rich heritage of the game here.
Talk of William Webb Ellis. He was the young man who picked the ball up and ran. How much do we know about him?
We know bits and pieces. We know that he picked up the ball in around 1823. We know that the ball itself was actually a pig's bladder, and we know that he was a very educated young man and went on to achieve great things in his life. But the formation of rugby, that's what he's well known for, and I think he'll always be known for that.
And within the school, of course, it's clearly, I know it carries the name because obviously it was the logical thing to do, I suppose. But within the school, is it seen as the main reason why people know who they are?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's an iconic venue, iconic place, and people, you know, especially during the World Cup year last year, the influx of visitors to the school was incredible. The day when we filmed, there were about 5 other film crews there. There was a TV crew from Japan. It's an iconic place, and everyone knows it because of their connection to the game.
Have you let the RFU see the film? Have they got a copy of it?
I haven't, Bob, but that's a fantastic idea. I think I'll do that.
And within, you know, I mean, you've been at great pains to talk as well about the influence of Moseley. Of course, when the game went professional, that was when they hit a low ebb, wasn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, things were difficult at the club. They moved to various other grounds. I think one of their stands burnt down. They've had a lot of sort of hardships, really. But I think now it's the time to sort of rally around and be really positive, because they've now got this fantastic new facility. They've got a 700-seater stand at the new ground, and it's incredible facilities. And one just hopes that they'll bounce back. They've obviously got relegated last season, which is a real shame, but one hopes they will bounce back straight away and play championship rugby, and who knows, maybe in a few years, maybe they'll get to the Premiership.
It's interesting in those clips from your film that you've got the boys dressed up in the way they would have played all those years ago. How do you go about getting those outfits for them?
So that's the school put on reenactments every year, so it's just something that they put on. So we were very fortunate that they were able to arrange that for us for the day when we were filming. So yeah, it was a real honour to actually film them reenact on the close itself.
And a labour of love, obviously, for yourself.
Absolutely, Bob. A real pleasure. It was a real buzz to see the film during the World Cup. We also held a screening at Moseley Rugby Club as well that was well received. And the film was shown on Aston Villa TV as well. So yeah, it's been. Oh, and I should mention as well, it was also part of an exhibition at Rugby Museum and Art Gallery, and we were indebted to some funding that we received from Rugby Museum and Art Gallery, and also from UK Trade and Investment as well. Without that funding, we couldn't have made the film.
Because sometimes making films about sport, it's not the easiest thing to do, is it?
No. There's so many stories there. It's about trying to choose a story that you know a bit about, or something that you're passionate about and you feel that you can connect with. And more importantly, you can connect to your audience. And that was hopefully something that we managed to achieve with this film.
So I am guessing that at the moment you are got all eyes on the sevens in the Olympics.
Absolutely, Bob. I can't take my eyes off it, in all fairness. I was up quite late last night watching the Argentina game. The most exciting 0-0 rugby match I've ever seen. And thankfully they managed to get through in sudden death extra time.
Because we were talking before we came on air, and we can't actually remember a 0-0 before anyway. So, and there's a former Moseley player, isn't there, of course, playing out there?
That's correct. James Rodwell, who's had a very good tournament so far. Yeah. He scored a couple of tries, I think, in the Japan game or possibly the Kenya game. But he actually limped off yesterday in the Argentina game. So one hopes he will be fit for the South Africa semi tonight.